Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now I'm not going to do a long video on the new SRAM Red eTap AXS 12-speed group set because I kind of covered the main points about this in an earlier True Show way back before it was released. But I just wanted to share my thoughts and maybe open a discussion on some of the little points of this new group set that haven't been picked up on so readily by the media, and just pick out a few things which are kind of strange to me, again, that haven't really been picked up on by the media. So let's just ignore the price for a minute because that's the big elephant in the room. The price is horrendous. I'm sure it will come down. No one really pays full retail for anything anymore. If you do, you're probably a bit of a mug. So let's not worry too much about the price. Let's start off with the first thing that kind of jumps out of me as still being really weird, and no one from SRAM has really addressed it. Why are we now putting the same power and torque through smaller gears? If you look at the track or TT specialists or pursuitists, they're choosing bigger gears. Now, I'm not saying that's going to enable you to ride with more power. I'm talking about using bigger cogs, front and rear, for the same power is known to be more efficient for the drivetrain. So why are we going the other way now? Why are we regressing with this? We're using a smaller chainring and a smaller cog at the back for the same ratio. And we're asking basically the chain to do more work. So, you know, why do you want to go and put 150 Newton meters through a 10-tooth cog? It just seems ridiculous to me. I mean, if you ask any track pursuitist or sprinter and say, right, go and do your flying lap on a 10-tooth cog, they'd probably laugh at you. You're putting maybe up to 150, 200 Newton meters peak torque through only one or two teeth on that tiny cog. What does that do? Well, the chain tension goes up, the losses go up, and it's just not as efficient. Now, I know at human power levels, these things don't matter so much. I mean, it's not like night and day. You're still going to be fine. For most people, we won't notice. But I just don't like these types of product design which kind of go against engineering principles. Yes, okay, that might not work, but if it is a marginal gain there, we know marginal gains add up, so why aren't we using them? Why are we doing this kind of regressive engineering that doesn't really go with real engineering principles? It just bugs me. So that's one thing I don't like about this group set, and I really hope it's not to do with weight weenies, because weight weenies should have died a long time ago. Saving a couple of grams off the cassette by making it smaller doesn't really sit well with me. Are they trying to save material from machining by making everything smaller? Maybe they've done some cost calculations there. If they have, fair enough, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem right that when we know bigger chain rings and bigger cogs are more efficient for the same power, why are we not going with that principle? Why are we regressing and using smaller? Anyway, second point. Chain rings. Chain rings are machined from one piece of billet. That's fine, but that means you can't swap inner and outer chain rings of different sizes. Okay, that's not such a problem, but it does pose a problem when they incorporate a power meter into it. So if we look at the current Quark power meter, now obviously SRAM own Quark, it's their product. If we look at the current Quark power meters that you can buy, the D4 and the D0, they have the power meter transducer, this piece, separate from the chain rings and separate from the crankshaft essentially. So the crankshaft is set into the transducer on this male spline here and bolted, and then your chain rings, which are basically your consumables, are bolted around the edge. Fine. So when your chain rings wear out, you throw them away and you bolt some new chain rings on. And your expensive power transducer in the center can remain. You can swap it between cranks, you can swap it between bikes, you can change crank length. This modular system works really well. Now, if we look at the new one, oh, okay, so they've got a one-piece chainring system, that's fine. But now, your strain gauges and all the power meter electronics are attached to that one-piece chainring. So what happens when the chain rings wear out? Do you have to throw away the power meter? Yes, you do. And that for me, that's just massive alarm bells. Like, how cheaply are they making this power meter to make it now basically a consumable and a throwaway item? Now, I've read something online about SRAM offering a kind of support system for this, where if you do wear out your chain rings, they'll rebuild you a new power meter at a reduced cost. But still, have they been cutting corners in the electronics now to reduce the cost of this, to almost make it a consumable like the chain rings? Does worry me slightly. Have they reduced the number of strain gauges? Have they reduced the sensitivity? Have they reduced the bit of the ADC in the electronics? I don't know, but it's not nice to know that your power meter is essentially now a throwaway item. For me, it's, you know, a sensitive transducer. It's got some quite expensive electronics in there. It should do. The best ones do, and it's nice to be able to keep that between bikes, between chain ring iterations, and not really have it as a consumable. And the other thing I don't like about this is, let's say you've got one bike and you've got enough money to throw at this new 12-speed group spec, but you've got one bike. You want to race crits on it, you know, pre-season or whatever. Then during the summer, you want to go touring on it in the Alps. You want to take your bike, you want to go on a cycling holiday, you want to go riding in the Alps. You need to put some smaller chain rings on. But to do that, you can't just put smaller chain rings on. You've got to buy a whole new power meter as well, because it's one module. You can't just swap off your bigger chain rings, put on some smaller chain rings, and keep your power meter. You've just got to buy a whole new module. And it just seems like the industry, in particular SRAM here, is just forcing people down this route, which is their way, and it's like my way or the highway. It doesn't give the consumer any choice. Most consumers probably got enough money to spend on this, aren't going to care about throwing away a power meter or understand how it works. But it's just, again, going back to that principle of regressive engineering. It's not in tune with the way you want it to be. And although I like SRAM and I like their engineering, it doesn't sit easy with me, because some of the principles they use are just a little bit backward. And okay, one thing they have done here, which I do like, is they avoided the bolted interface on the Spider. And what does that do? Well, bolted interfaces in strain fields are notoriously difficult and problematic in terms of reliable strain readings on the strain gauges. So by eradicating those bolted interfaces, they'll get a much more repeatable uniform strain field when you apply torque to the crank. But making it a throwaway item, I don't know. It doesn't really sit well with me. How much cost have they taken out of those electronics to make it like that? Or have they not? I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair, but that's just my thoughts. A couple of the thoughts on the new group set. Like I said, I'm not really paid too much attention to it, because it's well beyond the realms of what I'd be prepared to spend on a group set. I could buy 3 bikes for that. But yeah, just a couple of the engineering views. What do you think? What does everyone think out there about it? The new group set. Not just about 12-speed, like that debate's boring, isn't it? Like, do we need an extra gear? That's kind of a boring debate. I'm talking more about the design of the new group sets. What do you think about going down to smaller cogs? Do you think the efficiency loss is something to worry about? I bet you if you took your 10-tooth cog to Andre Greifel and said, right, go and do your max power on the 10-tooth cog, I wouldn't want to do that. You know, you've got all that torque going through a couple of teeth. I'd like to see them using bigger cogs, bigger chain rings, like they do in TTs. Everyone knows it's faster. Anyway, cheers guys. Let me know your thoughts down below on the new SRAM stuff. Cheers.